All right, folks, you're live with Lonzo, the Godfather of West Coast hip hop. And today, right now, I am the reporter for the Compton Chronicles, folks. A YouTube channel, a Facebook page, and a platform to disseminate information around the world, but also mostly for Compton and around the world. Today, I'm doing something a little bit different. Well, no, it's not really different. Not really different. I'm interviewing a partner of mine, a brother who has been on my show several times, my other show several times, and he is running for sheriff of Los Angeles County, folks. He's a good buddy of mine. I told him I wanted to interview him. He's giving me his interview today. I want you to meet him. I want you to talk to him. And at some point, we can open up the phone lines. You can give him a call and ask him a question for yourself. Right now, I'm bringing on my man, Cecil Rhambo. How you doing, Cecil?
How you doing, brother? I'm good.
I can't complain, man. I can't complain. You know, you and I we connected years ago when you were over in Compton as a sheriff, as a city manager. In fact, you put me on a quest to do something I forgot all about I was supposed to do, and I'm still working on it. But today we're here to talk about you and your quest to become the top sheriff in the county of Los Angeles. Why are you running, Cecil?
Well, I mean, you know, Lonzo, you know me a long time, right? So I come from the community. I've been working for the county for public service actually since the mid 70s, and I've done everything from working Parks and Rec as a young lifeguard to 33 years in the sheriff's department, where I did, you know, undercover narcotics back, you know, when I had hair. Worked internal affairs twice as a lieutenant and as a sergeant. Brought in AB 109. I sat on the Community Corrections Partnership. And then spent 33 years in that department working pretty much everything. When I left there, I got recruited to do city management, and I was assistant city manager and interim city manager of Carson. Then I became the city manager of Compton, and now I'm the chief of police at the airport. So I'm running because the department is, I think it's time. It's in need of someone who really knows how to hit the ground running. The department is very large, it's very complex. And it's not really, the condition that it's in is not something that someone who has to figure out things should take on. So I'm a lifetime public servant. I've got experience, and I believe I'm the right candidate at the right time.
You know, I'm thinking about your resume. You currently are the, for lack of a better word, top cop at the airport.
Correct. Yeah, it's the largest aviation police department in the nation. And it's the second busiest airport in the nation. And I also have Van Nuys Airport too, which is the largest general aviation airport in the nation. So it's, you know, on pre-COVID, we had up to almost 90 million passengers a year come through the airport.
So that gives you some international experience as well.
Well, you got federal level experience because, you know, there's federal rules and regulations that regulate airport safety and security. And then there's only so many airports that are the size of LAX in the nation. So, you know, I interact regularly with the what's called Category X airports throughout the country, New York, you know, Dallas, Miami, Chicago, you know, that kind of thing. So.
All right, getting back to the sheriff department, what's some of the main problems you see with the sheriff department right now that you know as a former sheriff and the former captain that you would like to see corrected in the sheriff department, things that you think you can correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, the culture of the department. I think the current sheriff. I mean, something as simple as, you know, allowing cowboy hats. I mean, I don't think he realizes how off-putting that is to us in the community. And I don't even know if you realize that they've approved cowboy hats for them to wear. So the culture of the department is something I think that needs to be addressed. And they, you know, dealing with the deputy gangs, as you've seen, have come out in the news. You know, the deputy cliques. That's a culture thing. And if you think about the way we treat people in the field, you know, when I was a captain out there, you know, we did progressive things before the lexicon progressive existed. You know, I was out there doing community engagement, leading the intervention programs, you know, working with the gang intervention workers when it wasn't popular. And right. So, you know, now that people see the value in it, you know, I plan to expand those programs and work more collaboratively with the community because there's support there for that.
How effective was your leadership in Compton when you were the top cop in Compton?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, Alonzo, you were there, you and I were there, and so you saw Compton before and after. And for me, we had established the youth boxing center and computer lab over there off of Alameda and Elm. I did the community camp out where I literally brought the camper on the street and camped out in the neighborhood in the worst part over there in an area called Front Hood. Built up relationships throughout all the gang sets in the community, which I still have to this day. The guys that are still alive and working with us and became intervention workers. So, what I did in Compton, I brought the crime rate down without really, ruffling too many feathers and creating, the environment we have now. I mean, one of the crowning achievements for me, I believe, just before I left the city, they were finally bringing in a Starbucks. Before I got there, there's marketing that goes on. And unless the community is a certain safety level, they're not going to bring in that kind of, those kinds of businesses. So as I was transitioning out, Starbucks was coming in. And now there's 3. And we put an In-N-Out burger over there off of Central in the 91.
So you're saying that the level of safety is a major factor when it comes to bringing business into cities like Compton or any city.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, as the young captain out there, I intuitively knew that. But I also intuitively knew that coming from Compton, as my first home, and then having family out there, that interaction with the community, we aren't going to arrest our way out of it. So we spent a great deal of time, doing community engagement, community collaboration, building bridges with the churches and the faith-based groups, the civil rights groups out there. So, everybody pretty much knew who I was and knew what I stood for, including the deputy personnel.
Okay. Now there's a lot of controversy surrounding the current DA Gascon, with him, in some opinions, giving criminals the right to do whatever they want to, as long as they don't do it over $1,000. How do you feel about that?
Look, I don't always agree with everything the district attorney does or what his policies are. And I've had a couple of meetings with George, and I've known George a long time, since his hair was black and I had hair. So one of the things I will tell you, that is up to, his policies are up to him. Do I think they necessarily make the community safer or not? That's hard to say, right? Because if you look at the $950 petty theft, leverage or the grand theft ceiling, it's $1,500 in Texas and $1,000 in Arizona. People don't know that. So people also forget how much crime was going on in the late 80s, early 90s, and that what we're seeing now coming out of the pandemic is people really coming out, finally coming outside and getting out. But my whole point about with George is I can disagree with George without being disagreeable. That's my position on George. He stays in his lane and I stay in my lane.
Okay. Rumor had that they're talking about building another jail. Have you heard anything about that? Or
yeah, I think
like that.
Yeah, they want to tear down Men's Central Jail, which was built in the '60s, and I understand that, and I've had conversations about that. I'm fully supportive of modernizing the jail system in the jail. That jail is very old, and the style of it is old. However, there has to be a jail plan, because in that particular jail are very, very bad people. I mean, there are people who've committed, serial murders, and there's prison gang members in there. That place is not for your lower level inmates. So you have to find a spot to put those folks first, and then transition so you can tear that jail down and then rebuild it. Now, not replacing the jail space, I'm not so sure that that's wise. It just depends. I think, the whole point is you have to have a place to keep the community safe. And so people that need to be taken off the street that are violent offenders, like the young man that killed Miss Avant, he has no place on the street, and there has to be a place for people like him.
Okay. Do you have a basic game plan to say day one you get elected? What's your first 100 days going to look like? Yeah,
so the first 100 days is one, getting in amassing, and before you, let's say I win, before I get there, I have to amass like a transition team of people. Because when the sheriff came in, he kicked out all the brain trusts. He took all the division chiefs and above, and by Monday morning when he came in, he had to start all over. So he didn't even know what he didn't know. On top of him being a very low-ranking person before he became sheriff. So I intuitively know, having been at the pretty high levels of the organization. Actually, I was right under the sheriff. Understanding where we are with the budget, where we are with personnel. I've had interviews with the unions who said, look, the overtime is just killing us because there's just not enough people. We can't fill our vacancies. Where are we at with our equipment? What's going on with our federal monitors? You have a federal monitor in the jail, and you have a federal monitor out in Antelope Valley. Where we are in the status and corrective action plan with that. So you're doing a SWOT analysis, basically a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. And then, so you're talking 90 days, get back to the board of supervisors, report on the status of the jail, what I'm finding, what I'd like for them, reestablish that relationship with the board is important, and then reestablish a relationship with the Civilian Oversight Commission as well as the Inspector General, and then start building those relationships back out in the community where it has eroded in some of those instances.
Yeah, it's been really rough for a while, especially in I'm gonna say, for lack of a better word, in the hood with the sheriff department. There's been a lot of shootings, a lot of situations. For me, I think what's probably bothering me most as a citizen is the things that get ignored, that's not being addressed, like those damn takeovers. That is probably one of the most asinine things I've seen these youngsters do in a long time. And they just kind of just do them at random, just like with the petty theft situation. There's no real consequences, or is there, that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, so when you see that, and I've experienced dealing with those kinds of things, particularly crimes that cross jurisdictional lines, right? They're happening in other cities, and then they're within the county, but not necessarily in sheriff's area, the LAPD, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills. So there's crime task force that you use to do that. What's changed about crime and how it's organized is social media. So now, people can organize themselves. You remember the whole flash dance and flash mob and that move.
Right.
Same thing with the traffic street takeovers where they're doing donuts in the street and all that. That kind of stuff is really organized on social media and other platforms. And there's methods to deal with those issues. And so we have, through intelligence methods and in dealing with multi-jurisdictional task forces. But to your point specifically, if you enter a building with the intent to commit that crime, that's not a petty theft, it's a burglary, it's a felony. And so charging the people with the right crimes, with the right charges is important. What we're bracing ourselves against, or what we're up against, is people in the community who also want a little more empathy, less prison, less pipeline to prison, and more rehabilitation. And so the question of the sheriff is, how do I, one, get to these young folks before they even do those kinds of crimes? Is it intervention and prevention? Is it discussing, meeting with some of the shot callers and letting them know, look, this is what's going to happen. Let's get these folks some jobs, work with the Workforce and Investment Board, get people trained up, work with the unions, because you really want to stop the crime before it happens. Because when you look at the news media of it, unfortunately, it's now we're seeing young women doing the smash and grabs, right? So where are we going wrong? Where is society going wrong? And we really need. That's where community engagement comes in, because it can't just be the cops telling people don't commit crimes. It's got to be our culture and our society as a whole.
I saw a dude committing, I guess he was doing a smash and grab with a calculator to make sure that he didn't go over the 950. Okay, I mean he fully gloved the whole 9 yards. He's sitting there trying to figure out, make sure I can't take this right here. It's gonna be it's over 950. I got a felony. That's ridiculous. Okay,
that's a felony. That shows intent, though, Lonzo.
Okay. So what makes it different? Now, help me understand the difference now. Okay. So somebody goes in there with a pre-planned situation. I'm going to steal me $949 worth of stuff. That's intent. That's a whole different.
Yeah. Case. Now it becomes a burglary, right? So when we back in the day, like if you have you go to a store and a person enters the store and they got booster bags, so they got extra Nordstrom's bags and some other things. They walk in the store, they pull these bags out, and they start filling these bags. So they entered the store with the intent to commit that crime. They committed a burglary. They didn't commit a petty theft. And so when you do that, that's the difference, understanding the difference in the penal code. Now, what has been taken away is it used to be a felony to commit a petty theft with a prior. So that became that charge was actually 666 of the penal code. So now the problem is you can commit as many petty thefts as you want, and it's not considered a prior offense. And so it's not considered a felony. That's where legislation comes in, and I think they're looking at Prop 47 and maybe doing some revision of it.
Let's talk about your support for a minute. Who's supporting you right now? The unions, the city officials? What kind of support you got right now?
Yeah, I have over 100 endorsements. I have the Black Legislative Caucus. I have the mayor of Redondo Beach and Torrance City. I have the entire Inglewood City Council. I have Betty Yee, who's a state controller. Al Murasucci. I mean, so it's a rainbow and a variety of Democratic elected officials on top of Connie Rice, who's a civil rights attorney, and the former public defender Ron Brown. So it's really a broad spectrum of folks that are community-based, community-minded, civil rights people who actually have sued the department before. So looking at that diversity is very important. And then I just got SEIU 721, which is one of the largest locals in the county here. So I think it's almost 100,000 employees. I got Joint Council 42 Teamsters, another 100,000 or so. So there's a lot of labor support out there also for me.
Good to hear that. So LA County runs from Orange County to Lancaster?
LA County is 4,000 square miles. It goes from I think Orange County, Kern County, Riverside, San Bernardino, and then the ocean, right? So it's literally 4,000 square miles, 88 cities within that area, and roughly, just LA County, roughly, 12 million people.
That's a lot of everything. People, mileage, the whole 9 yards. I commend you for wanting that position. I know I'm quite sure you'll do a great job once you get it. What else you want to share with us right quick, man?
I'm
uncomfortable. I keep calling you man and Cecil by your first name. Like I know you, but I'm trying. It's not like we having a conversation on the golf course. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We've known each other too long. That's part of it. So look, and that's okay. The fact that you can do that. I mean, the fact that so many people do know me in the community. I think for your listeners and your viewers on this podcast, I want them to know that I am a local kid. Adopted from an orphanage. My parents were in Compton. We moved to South Central. I went to Washington High. I graduated from Humboldt State, and full disclosure, I had no idea why those people were majoring in botany at Humboldt, but I know now. This was in the 70s, right? So, I'm really, really just a fortunate, regular guy from the neighborhood who has been blessed enough and really lived through enough things in the organization, lived through enough things as an adult, got called on to do leadership outside the department. Once you retire from a job, you don't really know what you're going to do. I got called before I was leaving to take on leadership positions. And so even when I left Compton, I got a call from the CEO of the airport to take on the chief of police job there. So people see, my demonstrated leadership, my integrity, what I've done over the years. And I think that, I feel good about that because I'm just a really regular guy and just blessed.
Fantastic. Hey, look here, folks. You are talking to Cecil Rhambo. He is currently the top cop at LAX or the whole airport system. Am I correct? But if you had a question for him, I'm gonna open the phone line up right now. We got a few minutes left. Open the phone line up. The phone number is 424-256-9211. No other show you can do this on. 424-256-9211. And I'll let you can talk. You can ask Cecil a question, whatever you have, whatever's on your mind. This is how we do it on my show. How your family feel about this, man? I mean, it's got to be a lot on the kids. The kids are pretty much grown now, though, right?
Yeah, you knew them when they were babies. They're grown now. My daughter's 25, and my son will be 22 next month. So yeah, they they were infants when you saw them. But yeah, they're good with it. They don't. I kind of shield them from all the madness. So now that they're adults.
Okay. Phone lines open, folks. 424-256-9211. I'm talking with the candidate for the sheriff's department, Cecil Rhambo. He wants to be the top cop in LA County. I personally think he's a great guy for the job. In fact, here's where it gets a little messy at. I was invited to a luncheon with another candidate, and I called Cecil to get the 411 on the candidate. Cecil says, "Hey, I'm running up. I'm out. Got to go with Cecil." Simple as that, folks. And no disrespect to the other candidate whatsoever, but I know this guy. I know him. I worked with him before. We've been 20 years now, man. Come on, dude. It's got to be at least 15, 20, about 20 years now.
20 years, yeah.
When were you in Compton?
2000, right at the beginning of 2001.
Okay, so it's been 20 years all day long. Right. When he first got to Compton, one of the first things he did after he got his letterhead together was came down to set with me on the show, and he was a regular on my show, Issues in the Hood. Every time there was an issue in Compton, anytime there was something to be discussed, and he was always open. And I always respected his transparency when it came down to situations in Compton. Okay, and it was only other person that I've met in the last few months, well, on this show right here, that I felt that comfortable with was Judge Filer. Because usually you don't get a chance to meet a judge until it's too late, okay? And Cecil, same thing with him. But usually when you're talking to a cop, you're pretty much trying to stay out of jail. But he opened up his office, his time, came to the show several times and discussed various issues on the show, on the platform, just like he's doing right now. And it's always been very, very transparent, and I can respect that. Even when the questions were even when things were hot, because things got hot in Compton for a while, under Baca. Things got a little hot from time to time, and he never ran from him. I got a lot of respect for that. So,
Lonzo, I do want to let people know that I realize, and people intuitively know that police work is really, really challenging, really hard, and it's not a perfect world. And we hire human beings, and there's more and more of us from the community that are in law enforcement now. And it's really, when you look at the department now versus when I came on in the early 80s, it's much more diverse now. I think the sheriff mentioned that it's about 51% Latino now. And he has, I think, 20% females, because we did a big push too, as he did. So you have a different, makeup inside the department. So when you see issues happening in law enforcement, it's not that you're not taking people of color or women into the organization that will change it. It's us as leaders changing the culture of police work. And it's something you always have to wrestle around with, because, there have been experiments, the Milgram experiment, and the experiment where they had the college kids, one was the prisoner, one was the guard. And, these are old experiments, and it's just human nature. The question is, how do you address the power and authority issue once you give this young person, 21, 22 years old, a gun? You put them in custody or you put them out in the street. How do you address their power issues? And then who are you picking to train them? Who are their supervisors? Who's their captain? That's going to be all very important in changing the culture inside the sheriff's department. That's something I plan to address every day that I'm in the job.
All right, folks, lines are open. You're talking to Cecil Rhambo right here on Compton Chronicles. The phone number is 424-256-9211. Don't be bashful. He's a good dude. He will answer your question. I know one of my friends called me earlier. He said he wanted to come on the show, but I called him and let him know what was happening. He didn't answer his phone, but that's okay. We'll be here for a few more minutes. What day is it? Is it a primary you have to go through right now? What for the election?
Yeah, it's June 7th. There's a primary, and if you get 50 plus 1%, then you win outright then. And so, there's 7 of us in the race, and, there's the challenger who's from Long Beach, and then Eric, there's another challenger who's actually from Compton PD, that is running in the race. So
Eric, he's the one who replaced you, didn't he? After you for the chief at one point, I think I
No,
might.
he's a lieutenant. That was an Eric, but that was a different Eric. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The cat running is a lieutenant, and so again, it takes a certain amount of. I mean, it's hard to go from being a lieutenant to running a $3 billion organization.
3 billion.
3 billion. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So what's based on economics? What's the budget for, say, the airport?
The airport's up there too. I mean, we have $14 billion of just construction going on at the airport. So when you look at the airport, it's a different beast. It's really a city, quite frankly.
Okay.
It's literally been transformed over the last really since COVID. I mean, the projects are going on, but COVID actually helped us fast track a lot of the development that we have in place there. So there's a number of things that you'll see at the airport in the future in terms of growth, more terminals, more development to the north. So it'll be, in the next, by the time the 28 Olympics come, it'll be almost a whole different airport.
Now I got to ask you a quick question. The Super Bowl 2 weeks ago. I know there had to be a major impact on your job at the airport. How much did that affect what you were doing over there?
I mean, there was an impact, but it wasn't as major as because there were several events around the city that LA city was planning. But our role at the airport was to receive the team, receive the friends and family, make sure they landed safely and they got off the property, and then that they took off safely. So, and then we actually had a lot by Proud Bird where people could park and they could tailgate, and so it was really the overflow parking for the stadium. So that everything went really well, and we coordinated that with a number of other entities, including LA City Department of Transportation and our federal partners.
Okay. All right, folks. The phone lines are open. 424-256-9211. If you have a question for the candidate of the mayor of the sheriff of Los Angeles County, now's the time to talk to him, folks. You might not get an opportunity in a public forum. Right now, we have a public forum that's being digitally broadcast, and I got a phone in my hand right now. All you got to do is dial the number 424-256-9211. Don't be bashful. He's a good guy. He'll talk to you. Just don't say that stupid. That's all I ask. Don't embarrass me, okay? Don't embarrass me. All right, 424-256-9211. We have about 3 minutes left talking to Cecil Rhambo. Anything else you want to tell the folks before we get out of here, Cecil?
Yeah, that one, I really found being a city manager really, really fulfilling, and I loved working in Compton and really trying to give back. And there's nothing that replaces the feeling of being able to trim the trees on the street. I was actually filling potholes with shovels with the guys out there, opening up that campsite over there off of Raymond and over in the farms. Compton is a unique city, and I have a huge affinity for it. So as sheriff, if I'm fortunate enough to win, I really plan to embrace Compton even further and work with that community as well as all the other communities in the county.
But you also I remember seeing you out doing pulling weeds in the what's that, the river or whatever, cleaning the riverbed out.
Yeah, the Compton Creek. Yeah.
Was that on your what you call that, your to-do list? I mean, that part of your job duty, job description, or just something you just took upon yourself?
Well, I was a chief executive officer of the city, but one of the things I will tell you is that, our guys worked our staff worked really, really hard. And I had a goal of cleaning the Compton Creek, which is 3 miles. And so we actually did that. And I wanted to pitch in and help. I mean, I really, 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 want to do good. I mean, honestly, Lonzo, I don't have to work at this point.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I take a pay cut to become sheriff. And, I really just love it. I love the people. I love the challenges. I think I think I can make a difference, and I've seen it because I've done it. I've made a difference, and I think I can just capitalize on that. Now that there's some political will to give me more funding for mental health crisis issues and give me more funding to deal with the homeless. So I really want to take advantage of that.
Oh, Please, I'm gonna extend this a couple of extra minutes because you just hit on two subjects, especially that mental health situation that I think we really need to address, because that is something that is near and dear to my heart. I've experienced that up close and personal, and it's like you're sitting there with a person that needs help, and unless they commit a crime, you can't get them no help. That's ridiculous, and you got to call the police.
Right, yeah.
Now you don't know if you call the police, and you get the wrong cop to the call. You don't know how this is, and it was a really a difficult decision. We knew we had to call the police, but I'm like, I can't let them just do anything to my folks. And what do you do? I hope that the city supervisors do find some type of budgeting for mental health, because it's definitely something needed in our community.
One thing, Lonzo, I think people forget, and I'm probably oversharing here. I had a cousin, a relative of mine. She's passed away now, but she was regularly at Norwalk, and Norwalk was a mental health facility out there. There's a Tascadero, mental health facility for the criminally insane. So the problem is there's no capacity, and so you have, and you don't know what to do with the mentally ill unless they quote unquote commit a crime. And you can take them for 5150 when they're a danger to themselves or a danger to others, but they're only held for 72 hours.
Right.
So that's the frustration. Ideally, what I prefer to see is some, and there's money at the state level. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be balanced on the back of law enforcement, because you need cops out there. But there's money at the state level to deal with the mentally ill, and if you can create capacity for mental health professionals to be able to respond, we should be the last resort. Now, we'll protect you, but it shouldn't be our job to be the tip of the spear dealing with the mentally ill. So I think that's where we run into issues. One of the things that I'll share with you, I would really love to do, and I'm going to implement when I become sheriff, is take a community like Compton or Willowbrook or Linwood. Take any community. It could be Malibu. In that community, there are people who have autistic children or adults who have parents with special needs that are going into senility. I want those folks identified so that they can be placed in the system. They can, so when you and I get that call, we go, oh, that kid is the Rhambo kid, or that's the, Williams' son, that kind of thing. And I can call you and say, hey, Mr. Williams, we have your son out here. So there's a relationship out there. And that's something that, in Compton, as a city manager, we had swim programs for the autistic, and we knew these families, we knew these folks.
Now, you said something about homeless as well. How could the sheriff address homelessness? How could you deal with that?
Well, so let's just do the part that's just in my lane. One, you have land use issues, right? So when they're hole up in abandoned buildings or camping out on the streets, municipalities have anti-camping rules and that kind of stuff. So, but ideally, what you want to do is, because there's certain laws that govern how you deal with the homeless, is you want to make sure you're compassionate, you're treating people with dignity, you're offering them services, you're providing them with someone from PATH or LASA, to get the housing. When they refuse all help and they refuse all services, that's when you have to enforce your land use laws and take them. I mean, because we've been allowing them to stay out there. And a lot of that is COVID driven. But at the end of the day, they've created environmental problems. They've set fires. They've created other dangers that normal, regular citizens just couldn't do. But specifically as a sheriff, we process about 2,000 people in and out of the jail system a week.
A week.
So when you have that many people, because there's 20,000 beds in the jail, I think the current population right now is about 16,000. People come in and out. Their average stay, when I was there, was like 54 days. So how many are going out to homelessness? How many are going out to a family member or to somewhere else they can stay? So getting jail in reach for bridging at housing is something that I want to make sure that we're addressing. So we're not helping to feed that homeless population. The other part is that the sheriff's department is responsible for the court system. So eviction moratoriums are over. What happens when, the Williams and Rhambo family get evicted? Well, if I know that ahead of time, let's get them some services, some rapid rehousing before they're evicted, so that they have somewhere to go, and then the landlord can rent their place, right? So understanding the processes in place, I think, are important for the future sheriff to see how he or she can work with that, addressing that issue. And then I'll make this last point. In Compton, I had a Section 8 program, and Carson and I ran the Workforce Investment Board, which is basically job employment. I'd love to develop a unit in terms of reentry where we have housing specialists that are working with our municipalities that we work with and finding housing through their housing programs and then tying people to jobs. And so there's the reentry program isn't just making sure that they go to job development classes, but we can give them housing, we can get them jobs, just before they come out, right? So they go out to something.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. I'm not even gonna go there. I know you need some money. How can they donate to your campaign?
There's an e-fund link. If you just Google Rhambo for Sheriff e-fund, and you'll see it pop up. Or if you go to my website, Rhambo RHAMBO Sheriff.com, my website will come up. You'll see videos and all my endorsements, and then there's a donate link, and there's also a volunteer link.
Okay.
Yeah, money is county's big. You need a couple $1 million, and you can only do it in $1,500 increments.
$1,500 increments. Okay, so you can't really get no ain't no super, what you call them, super PACs for Camp or Rhambo, huh? Ain't no super PACs like that.
Well,
groups.
Yeah, you can have an independent expenditure or a super PAC, but I can't as a candidate talk or coordinate with them. So
okay, that's right. That's
right.
The
majority of my donors are people who it's like when I gave to campaigns, I would give recurrent $250 here, and then a month later after I get paid, I get another $250. So that's how it's done.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna find something for you myself, doggone it, because I believe in what you say. I believe what you say. I believe in what you're doing. All right, folks. I gave you a shot. Nobody called in, but that's okay. That's okay. This show is gonna run on my Facebook page, on my YouTube channel, on my television network, the Homegrown Media Network, on Roku. If you want to see it and want to hear it again, no problem, folks. My candidate is my buddy, my partner. Oh yeah. Also, just so you know, we'll be playing golf again this year at Lakewood. So you have an invitation. Come on out and support Cecil Rhambo for Sheriff of Los Angeles County, folks. Cecil, anything you got to say before you go? Anything else you want to get out?
Hey, you're not electing a sheriff in me. You're electing a partner. I love you all, and I really, really look forward to being the next sheriff.
All right. That's it right there, folks. Cecil, thank you very much, Doc. I will see you on the golf course. If you want to come back again, give me a holler. You got it. All right?
I appreciate it. Let me know.
All right.
Okay.
Peace. We out of here, y'all. That was Cecil Rhambo running for county sheriff, folks, of Los Angeles County. Good friend of mine. Good brother. When I met him, we just kind of click, folks. And there's sometimes, especially a brother in that position, we just click. And sometimes you got to support people that oh shoot, I forgot about the chat room. Damn it, there it is right there. Anyway, folks, we out of here, folks. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I was so busy with the interview, I didn't look to open the chat room up, and I see them all here. Martin's here, Stevie's here, B Rock, Rock BG, Slate Rock, everybody's here, folks. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'll address it again on my Tuesday show with Dusty Vision. In the meantime, folks, you're live with Lonzo, the Godfather of West Coast Hip Hop, and this is another episode of the Compton Chronicles, folks. We're out of here. Thank you. Peace.